hand out. It's just a little cheat sheet on things that would be helpful. I hate going to seminars myself and going to events without getting something, feeling like I have to call the person to be able to get the cheat sheet. So it's right there. It's our process. It's just simple, Simon. So I should have almost everything in here. The one I don't have is bidding out hedging utility costs. Not a big deal, super easy. But what ends up happening is, I'm sure everybody here, if you're especially involved in manufacturing, a little less if you're involved in service, and the supply chain is pushing on you really heavy to understand what is your environmental impact. And that can prevent you from bidding on projects, especially if you're inside of the industry of Department of Defense or one of the big 3 OEMs in Detroit. That can severely impact your ability to get more business. And the cool part is you don't have to do much to be able to get that business. You just got to be on top of your disciplines inside of your companies. I like putting up sometimes a little controversial questions. Is if you go to the doctor and you're told you have high blood pressure, would you rather, and you don't have to say it out loud, we don't want to judge anybody, but would you rather get the magic pill that's going to lower your blood pressure, or are you more the type, let's be disciplined? I don't need that foreign substance in my body. Am I going to be disciplined on maybe what I eat more, or maybe some exercise? Or would you rather have the magic pill? So think about that for a little second, because that is where we're going as society. We are really getting to a point of more pharmaceuticals, more easy pills, right? And how does that relate? Well, in business, it is getting highly sophisticated. There is no magic pills anymore, right? Business is tough. There's so much with social, there's so much with regulation, there's so much with employees, so much with talent. How do you handle it all? It's getting more and more sophisticated every day. What is your environmental impact? Accessing, knowing what it actually is crucial. If you're involved in any scope 1 through scope 3 emissions and you're having to fill out the supply chain questionnaires, almost every time scope 3 emissions, as you know, is your supply chain, their emissions almost 100% of the time that I've seen so far is 94%. So if you're a Walmart or a Ford Motor Company and saying, okay, 94% of our environmental impact is our suppliers, we need to push hard on that. We need to figure out what are they doing wrong, because we're doing great. We're only at 6% of our environmental impact is us. The problem is the Fords, Oshkosh, or the Department of Defense, none of those people know how much of that 94% is influenceable. If your whole entire supply chain is doing great, well, guess what? You barked up the wrong tree. You're not going to be able to get any improvements out of the supply chain. Or it could be 100% improvement. You never know. But that's the problem in this industry when you're dealing with environmental impact. There's so many unknowns because it's a huge number. Most companies that we deal with don't have a utilities department, and that accounts for almost all your environmental impact. And they're big companies. You have big foundries, big paper mills. They have enough in their budget to be able to add one person, but one person is not enough. Honestly, it takes like 21 people to be able to get your arms around the utilities, because there is hedging of utilities. There is, are you on the right rate structure? There is, are there erroneous bills? What about the air compressors? What about HVAC? What about the chillers? It's kind of complicated, but it's not too much. It really is a little easier. So, process is crucial. Having a really good process is crucial, and following that process. So I'm going to skip this one just because we kind of talked about the currency when you're dealing with increasing sales for your sales and marketing department. The currency is sustainability. It's the word. What are you doing? Because the supply chain also knows that if you're more efficient, you're providing renewables, your costs are less. Right? So if your utility expenses are lower, your profitability should be up. You're also, they know how complicated it is because it's complicated for them. There's a great case study on NGK, and when the CEO, this is about 12 years ago, got hired because NGK was really financially not doing well. The board said, you got 3 months, give us a plan. 3 months later, the CEO came back and says, we're going to concentrate on safety. And the board's like, what the heck? What do you mean? We just spent all this money, all this time recruiting you, and our sales are dumping, they suck, and you're going to worry about safety? And they go, safety is a discipline. If we can get that right, we can get quality right, we get sales right, we get marketing right, we get everything right. And that's what it is. It goes back to, do you want a pill or do you want to be disciplined? Being disciplined, you got to have processes and procedures. Discipline, you got to know where you're starting off at. You need to know where your blood pressure is now, and then be able to have some goal in the future to be able to hit that goal. So there is so much, especially, what industry is anybody getting pressure from your supply chain, from your clients to reduce? In what industry, roughly?
Flexible packaging.
Flexible packaging, okay. Any other industries getting pressure? So where we see a lot of pressure is Harley Davidson. Go ahead.
Well, data center generally,
Yeah.
that's been talked about for the last 10 years. Is where you in the data center, how to get it down.
Yes.
It's been talked about a lot. I haven't seen customers actually quite as much as they
Sure.
could.
Yep. So it's being talked about constantly, and if the website, the greatest way to be able to increase sales is to Google up your clients' quotes. What does the CPU of your customer say? Whatever he or she is, look for those little nuggets of words. Make sure that they're put in your proposals or your bids. The CEO of your customer is making comments, guarantee it. And they know that even in their own process, they talk about return on investment projects, and their return on investment, they're doing projects in their own facility, and a lot of those projects, they're creeping up where they might say, well, we need to have a 2-year payback, 50% ROI, unless it's safety related, right? Or unless it's sustainability related. So they're giving a little bit more credence for it, but the most I ever see is another year. So from a 3-year payback perspective, they might go up to a 4-year payback. And part of the issue is, if you're not dedicated to it, it's hard to find it. Data centers, for an example, a lot of times, a lot of them are cooling the environment, and then they're cooling it, and the media that's going out, be it CO2 or whatever, is going out, getting rid of the heat. It's coming back into the building, but yet it's getting heated back up. Because it can't be too cold, so it's getting heated back up. So it's just simply knowing that system, and you can put a mixing valve instead of sending it all out to be cooled, only send enough out to be cooled, and send that cool enough media, CO2, back through the system, and shed that coolness inside the building. But there's no manufacturers that installs a mixing valve. So that's all you gotta do. And it's super simple, and the ventilation, air conditioning, heating for data centers is a huge portion. A critical portion. So. And being able to do those internal case studies and saying that is crucial. So this is just a big 3 out of manufacturer supply chain questionnaire. I'm sure you have them. You're getting them. You're receiving them, and they're lengthy. One of the things I could ask is that you welcome it. Welcome the regulation, because everybody hates them, including your competition. So part of this today needs to be talking about the attitude towards it. If this is the method to play the game, embrace it. Look for them. Seek them out. Because your competition doesn't like to do it. And filling these out, and a lot of them are pretty much the same. And the part that does not usually get done is these sections where they're asking for additional information. Have those case studies ready. A lot of times the case studies that your marketing department is doing is based on the product or service you're selling. Do it on internal stuff, because that also helps with your internal talent. Being able to put posters up. Say, be it some process, we improved it, and this is the structure of how we were figuring out how much did we consume in this process. And you're essentially teaching your own internal employees what you did, right? You're saying, we put data loggers on, we measured out where we're at initially, we vetted a couple alternatives, we did some experiments, settled on X process, and this was our actual results. Now you get to teach the employees about things that they should be looking for, because you already have a set process. 4 or 5 steps, simple steps, and it's good internal marketing. You get to use that for your external customers, in addition to your internal customers. This I talked about, it is what it is. You have alternatives right away. You can do a magic pill and buy some offsets. You didn't do anything for it other than pay for it. Or you can be disciplined. Your choice. Pretty simple. And then when you do that, is you got to understand, where does it come from? I'm not a medical doctor. I just understand from my doctor, who once was going to send me to the hospital because my blood pressure was too high, was not going to let me out because all I had was a cough. And it was so high. It was like 220 over something. And they wanted to prescribe me some pills, and I said, no, thank you. And they wouldn't let me leave until they prescribed them. Did it. Found out about the little bit of research, of course, Google knows. And I read that blood pressure comes from trauma. You could, like bang your thumb with a hammer, your blood pressure's going to rise. Or you can have inflammation, you could be allergic to stuff. So you might be allergic to something that you're eating, or your environment. Get rid of it, and your blood pressure is perfect now. Just a little bit of time later. So it comes down to that. Then when you have what it is, you set a goal and you measure against it. I wish I could tell you I'm giving you some magic secret, but I can't. It's just a mindset of being disciplined and allowing the processes that we share. Yes, sir.
Isn't there a cost factor as well, pill versus discipline?
Sure. Because the pill, the offsets are not, they're not too expensive, they're fairly reasonable, but you're missing out on the cost savings. You're missing out on the cultural impact. Because people know what greenwashing is. The employees know what it is, your suppliers know what it is. You got a facility that has a parent low-hanging fruit, as everybody would call it, has a parent low-hanging fruit not touched, but yet you're promoting all this greenwashing. They know you're full of crap. So you missed out, the client, to your point, missed out on, the company missed out on all those savings that they have, which are in theory perpetuity until you change the process again. And it can be a competitive advantage, not just for increasing sales, but also for talent acquisition. Being able to promote that and put that up on your website. This is just about us. I'll skip that. If you think about the sustainability and understanding your environmental impact, it's nothing more than lean, right? It's lean manufacturing. It's cutting out rework, it's cutting out scrap. There's an aluminum foundry that all they did was reimagine how castings are done. And they were able to cut out something like 7% of their scrap. That's great. 7% is a huge amount. But that's one item. But the amount of capacity that 7% of scrap withheld in their furnaces of remelting the aluminum, and then having to put it through the process again, you lose out on 7% of capacity. And then of that new product you're producing, there's still, scrap in that, right? And it just becomes this snowball effect of the cost. Not that 7% reduction in scrap was not a 7% cost reduction. It was something like 44 or 43% of their operational expense. It's humongous.
Wouldn't that be exponential growth too?
Yes,
It's just going to keep compounding.
it's going to keep compounding. Yeah, they looked at it like a 3-year, they just looked at a life cycle of a contract, which was 3 years, and it was a huge amount, huge percentage. And then what do? You get to tout what you did, because what they were doing was recirculating a processed water, and they were able to save on cooling tower, heating of the dyes, melting of the aluminum and all that, promoted how unique they were, and it's a great selling piece on their bids and their quoting for future business. The biggest thing with environmental impacts, sustainability, and increasing sales is sales and marketing ends up being a separate entity of the organization, right? Typically report to the C-suite, executive leadership to try to increase sales. The biggest benefit is to get down on the ground floor, get down on the plant floor, and understand what is happening. Get back in where maintenance is working. And maintenance is doing a lot of great things. And facilities engineers are doing a lot of great things that could be promoted, but aren't, because they're just doing their job. And it is connecting the dots of the control systems that are being implemented. Some of these facilities, you talk with the executive leadership team, and they think they're not doing much, and you get into the engineers and the maintenance people, and they're doing a ton. And you're very impressed by some of it. Some of the SCADA systems that they're doing for Lean Six Sigma and fishbone hierarchies of problems and that, all that stuff is gold. Yeah, it's gold, especially for the salespeople of that company. Salespeople are looking to talk about something new, and there's tons of opportunities already going on inside the facility. Yeah, the talking about bidding, there was questions about costs of utilities. In the state of Wisconsin, natural gas is deregulated. There's some limits to it. You wouldn't want a very small natural gas consuming, you're not going to get a good price. You might as well stick with market price. But if you're any kind of consumer of natural gas, it'd be good to bid it out. It's super easy. There's a lot of, it's just online portals that the utilities sign into, Constellation, Twin Eagle, things like that, and you can bid out that energy price. Super easy. Where it gets difficult is if you've never been in contracts before. There is a waiting period to get into bidding, but if you've been in energy contracts before, it's super, super easy. And right now, I don't know if anybody knows it, we're like near a 10-year low of natural gas. The 10-year low for a million BTUs was like $1.86. We're at like $2.16 right now. Super cheap. I believe it was 2022 where that was up to $6, $8. If anybody wasn't in a contract, that was very painful for you. So it's a great way to hedge. When, believe it or not, even very large companies, there's Even very large companies don't need a full-time person. There's 21 different expertise that we feel that companies need to do when you're doing sustainability and energy management. And I got a couple up there. But none of those are full-time equivalents. None of them is, in theory, a 40-hour-a-week job. It's like a fraction of a person. Even very large companies, you may need a full-time equivalent, but then they're going to have to do 21 different functions really, really well. So that becomes difficult. That's what's really hard in this industry and in this discipline. There's so much assistance out there, so much from the Department of Energy to Focus on Energy to Wisconsin Manufacturers Extension Partnership to there's tons of nonprofits. The communities, Madison does a really good job. I should have thought of putting their logo up there, but Madison does the city of Madison does a pretty good job of talking about all the resources that are out there. But there's no shortage of it. The problem is there's no shortage of it. It's over. That's why that handout should really try to get it down to as low as possible. One of the keys, though, is like I mentioned earlier, sales and marketing coming down to the plant floor, down to the operations, is crucial. Being hands-on is crucial. And understanding the processes and procedures inside the organization will do a better job of writing a case study of why it's better for your clients. So it's great. Great. We reduce some packaging. Awesome. Well, how and why? And why is that important? And it might have cleaned up some square footage. Building square footage ain't cheap, but if you can pull some parts out of the process out. There was one client that just recently, it's a paper machine, it's a slitting and a perforating, and they would slit and perforate, and when you slit it and cut the process, you're creating two items, and you got to perforate twice as much. And all they did was reverse the process and perforate it first, because you're perforating one piece of paper, one roll of paper, and then you're slitting it after. The amount of time that saved was astronomical. You're talking like it was like 30% less work, and it's just being on site. And you won't be able to do that remotely. It has to be on site. It's looking and asking all those questions. The other part is all the tools. The other thing a lot of people don't realize in the state of Wisconsin, you don't have to pay, or your utilities, your natural gas and electricity is tax exempt. It's sales tax exempt if it's used for manufacturing. You're taking a product and converting it. It's tax exempt. You have to fill out a little audit, fill it out, pretty simple. But those are all the things that help pay for a program like this, if there's savings. There's compressed air savings, if there are HVAC savings. All those things are really good because even for the supply chain, they're looking to see how are you being more profitable and filling those forms out. It's a simple step. Data collection, optimization, audit deliverables, and then implementing those solutions. And this is digging into each one of them. The data collection is crucial. Going back to the blood pressure. You don't know what blood pressure you're at unless you have a blood pressure monitor. You just have no clue. You're just guessing. And there's an old saying, there was a gentleman down in Kentucky who looks exactly like Mike Ditka. Exactly. And his name was Roger Greer, and he always had a saying, I'd rather have no information than bad information. So, if you think about it, I'd rather have no information, then you can at least use your gut. If you got bad information, you're using your gut against some shitty information. So, you're going to make some really, really bad decisions. So, getting that data is crucial. Everybody knows that. Again, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, it's just I'm hoping to encourage you guys to think of it a little bit differently, that it's this side little department to be able to understand the utilities and sustainability and say it really is overreaching the entire organization. It's overreaching the employees. Because they're in charge of processes. The example of the slitting and the perforating, that was an employee process. Somebody developed that process to do it that way. But yet, the amount of energy that saved that company was astronomical. Shutdown procedures. Just going in on the weekend, how many of you go into the plant on the weekend and see stuff running, fans running, lights running? It's already gone, it's wasted. And it's been doing that for 30 years. And what are you doing different to change it? Let's not get sophisticated. You can do automation, but automation only lasts as long as you have good people to do that automation. But you can do very, very simple things and putting stickers up and signs up on every piece of disconnect and say when this piece of equipment is not running, shut it off. But this piece of equipment must stay on at all times. And it might be a different color, right? And then it's the plant manager's responsibility when they're walking around, or whoever's responsibility is shut down at the end of the day, that they're looking at every piece of equipment. It takes out the guesswork. Should it be on or not? Oh, Mary would shut it off. John would shut it off if it was supposed to be shut off. So they don't shut it off. Where was it? Mary or John just wanted to leave it. They didn't understand that their clients, their future business, the future employment might be at risk, because it is getting heavily competitive. How many businesses are a little slow right now? A lot of our clients are really slow. We deal with mostly in the industrial area, paper mills, steel mills, foundries, food processing, things like that. We have a client, it's a big number only because it's a huge organization, but about 2 months ago they were down 330 million tons of iron of melting. It's a big number. Granted, it's like 26%, but it's just every, I don't know of a lot of industries that are really busy right now. Why not try to unseat the competition? We owe it to our employees to unseat them. So, analysis, understanding what you're spending, having the metrics, getting into the facility, and one thing is I was on a call this morning with a foundry that does, they're getting, I would call it a holistic view of their organization. And they have consultants coming in and vetting what is consuming energy in their facility. But it's just a swag number, as you would suspect, right? It's just a guess. We think you can save this amount. But for focus on energy, you can do project assessment incentives where they'll pay for half of the studies. So at least if you did that, make some smaller investments, at least you would find out if the compressed air is doing well, the HVAC is doing well, chillers. Something really unique is we used to always do chillers connected to cooling towers. Now, it's fairly reasonable to take the chillers and make a hybrid system out of it instead and dump the heat inside the building, or going out to a pond or geothermal. Those costs are not out of control anymore. They used to be unbelievably high. Project design matrix. One of the biggest things is, it's one thing to be able to understand what the proposed savings are, but the actual savings are crucial. So that you know that when the next project you learn from it, right? You know that this is getting into the first 90 days of a program. These are the best practices. Most companies, we all chase shiny objects because somebody says, hey, we should go work on this. Those would be the inherited problems that we have in our day. And these are in my opinion, usually the best return on investment from our years of experience. moving fixed expenses to variable expenses, moving fixed assets that just are cost you 24/7, and getting as many of those to become variable to match production. So if production is up and down like it always is with operations, getting the utility bill to match it. If the utility bill is flat, so is your sustainability impact. It's probably very high because you're not giving advantage of any of the valleys. So that can be one of your biggest improvements on any kind of sustainability questionnaire you have. Reducing demand charges is purely cost, but again, it's a pure process. You don't have to swap out a piece of equipment to reduce demand charges. It's purely procedural. It's purely cultural. It's all within inside your company. Improving the power factor if you get charged for it, even if you don't get charged for it, it's low cost to improve it. It will affect the utility bills a little bit. And then improving the throughput, reducing scrap, reduce rework, improve your, I should spell that out, the operation, OEE, consumption versus, and then the metrics. Oops, sorry. This would be your energy management, the procedures and the process, having a playbook. There's so many things. We have this great technology out there for the last, 7, 8, 10 years of the QR codes. It's amazing how you can just do a QR code and in your facilities have by the thermostats. What should the thermostat be set at? What, and it sounds stupid, but it's amazing how knowledge is being lost. I was talking with a guy this weekend. He was an electrician at Neenah Foundry for 38 years. He just retired. 38 years of knowledge of knowing what that valve does is gone. And where that pipe goes is gone. And again, it goes back to your sales and marketing department and improving sales and all that. They're the ones that are experts at QR codes. And imagine a way to bridge the gap for maintenance facilities to say, let's put some of this knowledge that you have about this machine and about this valve and the last time it failed and into a system right on your internal intranet and just do the QR code and put in things like what are the pressure settings supposed to be and where is the air pressure supposed to be. It can be good. So that bottom left corner, your left, yes, is the utility playbook, and that could all be QR code, and anybody could update it like Wikipedia. Super simple. So some of the results, you have to be able to do some kind of guesstimating for goals in the beginning. And one of the things that I know we severely do badly is underestimating the opportunity that you can have with a client, because you don't, when you're looking at the surface of it, how many opportunities does the company have when you're walking through, and you first start to see some opportunities, and it's like, okay, we think we can reduce 3 or 5%. But if you're there every day and you start seeing and you're communicating with the people that are operating the equipment, you come up with another idea. You come up with another idea. You come up with another idea. And it just snowballs into something greater. And a lot of it is procedural. It's not necessarily big capital stuff. Or it's small stuff integrating pieces of equipment. The biggest complaint you get, though, is A, you could be moving too fast for the organization. But wouldn't that be great, even on those case studies for your potential clients for sales and marketing, is these are the things we're working on over the next 3 years. The problem is you don't get those results, though, if somebody has this responsibility plus maintenance, or this responsibility plus facilities, or this responsibility plus production. It's too complicated, it's too hard. There's too many moving parts, there's culture, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And you can actually have the should have its own mission statement, its own vision statement that is outside of the company, but it supports the company's mission and vision statement. Because it can create a culture, like I said, it overreaches the employees, and it overreaches the buildings, the production, sales and marketing, and the direction of the company. So having its own mission statement and vision statement, the results to date, and then the future improvements. Like I said, there are typically more improvements in a company has than they have a palate for. They don't have an appetite for as many improvements that you will find typically. And it goes back to the original attitude of discipline is quality typically goes up. Productivity, the increased value of the product, the gross profit increases substantially, overhead expenses go down, and you have something to promote for the organization. I handed out a checklist or a process of what we go through. Use it, I hope you can. Talking about green, anybody see the news this last week? I think it was last week. ExxonMobil getting sued by the state of California, and all our plastics we thought were getting recycled, and they're not. If you read both parties, both people are guilty, right? Government, federal government, state government, and the contractor. The state didn't want to report it in the beginning, and so if your expectations are, what's the old saying about expectations and expectations and outcomes? Hopefully something like that. But if your expectations are low, that ends up being what your outcome will be, right? And it was a task that was unachievable. The technology was not there, so I think, I could be wrong, but I think 85% of the plastics that have been recycled in the last 10 years have not been recycled. Okay. So it comes down to common sense, right? Sustainability and environmental impact comes down to common sense. There's so many initiatives out there that are just crap, and it's annoying, and it takes us away from all the good stuff. That there's little things like you wouldn't believe. Like there's a company, I know a company that makes pickles, and the amount of water, hot sanitizing water that goes down the drain, we can't find for it going into the river because it's an issue that affects the ecosystem. The cost to fix that is so simple. It's so little it can be used for sanitation. That's not, we'd rather spend the money on offsets. And it's just like common sense stuff. There's no shortage of facilities. But it takes a coach and a cheerleader for those initiatives. Because most facilities that have a lot of these improvements that they can do, the person who's doing it, he or she is doing like 3 responsibilities, and wearing 3 hats. And it's just very hard to do. Again, the reason why it's hard is because you're touching so many things in the company. Timeline benefit, most companies get your first, I like to call first class status, is 3 years. You can go faster, but the company will not have the appetite for it. It will be too much, really quick. So it has to be paced. Funding sources, that was on here. There's 21 funding sources in the state of Wisconsin that you can take advantage of. There's probably more, but those are the ones we follow and track constantly. And there is a handout like that over by our as well. Feel free. Typical programs for these, even if you do it internal, couple 100% ROI, guaranteed, easy, to pay for the right people, right personnel. It can pay for itself. It's like purchasing, right? Purchasing apartments, they pay for themselves. Did I miss anything? Any other thoughts going through the discussion? Yes, sir.
The size of the utility department that you're going to pay, how many employees?
Well, even most very large companies, and I'm thinking of a client like 3 million square feet, spends $8 million a year. They don't even need a full-time equivalent. They need like a 0.95. And that is the biggest problem with a sustainability team. Creating that department, the cost is outrageous. It kind of is outrageous when you're doing it in-house because, in theory, you need to have so many different disciplines. You got to have a technical aptitude. You got to have people that may have a technical aptitude. You can think about the client perspective, the sales, the market. What's the benefit for the client? What's the benefit internally? There's a human resources part. There's a purchasing part of getting out your utility expenses. There is sales tax issues. There's a whole bunch of items. That's where it becomes very difficult. And I see that is the number one job title that I usually see turns over. There was a plastics company, this is about 7 or 8 years ago, they went out and hired 3 people to set up their utilities department. They were all fired within like 6 months, maybe it was a year, because there was no results. Because they're trying to, you have to make friends with their teammates, right? And you gotta get to know, well, what does Joe do? What does John do? What does Mary do? What does Frank do? What does Susan do? And they don't have a program. They're gonna figure out the program after a year. No company has the money to do that, even a large company. Everything, there used to be, you think about these beautiful buildings downtown Milwaukee, we were built off the profits of the cash flow of the company. Most of the companies nowadays, it's hard to make profit. So to have an extra person on hand is very difficult. There's a great case study of Acuity Insurance. I don't know if anybody's from Acuity here, but Acuity 20 years ago was like Heritage Insurance or something like that, and they were almost bankrupt. Georgia Pacific's another great example of a great bank. They had 1,800 people. They could barely make profit. By getting the operation very efficient, Georgia Pacific cut down their people in half. Very profitable for the coke industries. Acuity Insurance, their profit, their revenue per headcount was like 225,000. It's like 1.4 million. That's discipline. That's discipline. That's not a magic pill. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, the question about the FTE. So, even a very large company, so I quite honestly recommend not bringing on people yourself, because all of a sudden now they all ultimately feel like they own it, or that they have a secure job. I would highly recommend choosing somebody who has a program. Somebody else, I don't care. Just there's the plan. An outside person who has a bench strength of people that know the technology, they know how they already have predetermined posters. Talking about compressed air, has the relationships with the Department of Energy, Focus on Energy, this Department of or your local economic development corporation, has a relationship with the utilities to be able to get bidding out on that. State of Wisconsin for sales tax exemption. Sure, they're out there. But like I said, 3 million square feet and $8 million annual utility expense still doesn't need a full-time equivalent. It's like 0.95 there. Other thoughts? What did everybody think of that ExxonMobil lawsuit, though?
To just think of one, because the consumer protection companies already take responsibility, we are pushing it back to their supply, we make the packaging and fill it, and then we're pushing it back to our supply, there's like, there's the infrastructure is the area, it's coming, it's building, but it's not building. And the other thing people understand, and like the leather came, if the recycled material, it doesn't, we have all the machines, they cannot handle this material, because the material has so much fluctuation in it versus the green material, right? The virgin material. It's really hard to buy. It's not something you can just throw into the machine and like, oh, there it is. So we had a big callback because it was leaking something we made. The recycled material, like, it is not that easy. We're trying.
It's not easy. Anybody do any canning? Anybody like eating, preserved foods in cans? Do you know that you can still get canned jars with lead in it? And it can still reach into your food? Still perfectly legal. And guess what? They're going to be the cheaper ones because they don't have as much scrap. Lead is an excellent lubricant in the process. What is that called? Like the goblet? It's called a goblet. Goblet comes down, and most of those machines were designed back in like 1904 by the Ball brothers out of Ohio or Indiana, wherever that is. And it comes down and they blow it up and it cycles around and they inject another shot of air. But the lead is a lubricant, and otherwise you can get scraping on the outside of the glass. It's harder to really profile. You have to have enough people in your operation to profile those machines well, so you don't have scrap because nobody wants to buy a scraped glass. So what do? They put lead in it. You buy it, you can in it, and you're eating. You got to be really careful on what you're buying. Coca-Cola Enterprises, they own their own plastic bottle product. They call it Southwestern Container and Western Container. And I don't know if this is a real number, but you'll notice when you're buying plastic bottles, some are thinner and some are thicker, right? There's a real art and a science to that because the thickness is so small. We're talking like a gram of PET, virgin PET, that is not going through that process. Saves them like $1 million a year or something. I don't remember what it is. The numbers are way up, but it's not much. And so it comes down to these green initiatives and that. It makes sense, financially makes sense. That's usually what gets approved. And we as the consumers play a part of it. And that's why the supply chain is all worried about it. Nobody wants to talk about the lead in the glass bottles, but you can look it up. There's a couple of big things in that. There's lead in there. Candy jars. You start reading up on all that. That's why this is all coming about. It's been coming about, right? I think everybody can agree the last 3 to 4 years, the sustainability, environmental impact has reached across both sides of the political spectrum. The cost of energy is very high right now. It shouldn't be this high. It's affecting everybody. Thoughts, questions? Full of it? Any success stories in your facilities?
We have resin that does get recycled, actually. We don't use it ourselves, but other companies use it. So other companies basically the machine will allow them to create lots of resin. And other companies can use it. So we're trying to find this more circular. And if I, of course,
Sure. Yeah, there is a lot of attitude around, especially the plastics and the glass industries, that it's just, And these glasses, like forever recyclable, it's like one of those ingredients. Paper you can recycle it what, 7 times. But glass, as long as it doesn't turn into a clinker, and clinker is like it's a rock. As long as it doesn't turn into a clinker, you can recycle glass thousands of times. It's an amazing product, and it comes natural, right? Out of the earth, just sand and just meat and dirt, add a little lead. But the cost of that rework or that scrap that goes back into the system, now you're filling up that furnace with something that should have been out in the warehouse ready to ship. And that is probably one of the hardest mindsets to change in our clients' heads. They're like, it's just forever recyclable, no big deal. But it should be on the loading dock going out to your customer, you're making money. Now that 9-cent glass bottle that you're going to sell for 23 cents now is not 9 cents because you have to put it back through the system. When you do sell it, you're actually losing money on every one of those bottles. It's not 9 cents, it's probably like 24 cents. And if you put it back in the system again, now we're up to like 48, 49 cents. Little fun note back too, I don't know if this is a true statement, but what I always hear from the glass factories is way cheaper to buy the raw coat, the virgin material, than it is to buy recycled glass. I'm sure it is. There's a company down in Kentucky called Signoi. They're part of Illinois Food Works. They make plastic bottles, and then like where you strap it, you might see in house. They make their own machines to make that strapping. Really cool company. It smells really bad from all the soda and stuff.
Can you share a case study that you've worked on, your firms you worked on, from beginning to end? What happened and how did you get at it?
Sure.
I'm just curious to hear
So-
all this work.
Yes. So the initial part is understanding. The first process is, and it's on the list. Let me think of a really cool company. Let's use Oshkosh Defense because they are so engaged. So Oshkosh Defense, you go around and you audit every piece of equipment that's in the facility that's using electricity, natural gas, and water. Two-part reason. One is you get a database. Second, the most important reason is the engineer or the technician gets to see the entire process. Barcodes it, you have to barcode it. I'm say you should barcode it your own, whatever, but you build that database because in the future when you're walking around and you don't see a barcode, it's not in the database. There's lots of reasons for that because it helps with sales tax audits, it helps with rebates and cases focus on energy incentive and there's restricted incentive. You quickly look to your database and say, yeah, I have 13 of those things, you can do it. Then it starts getting into procedural stuff, like shutdown procedures, and putting up signs on every piece of equipment, because you got the database, is this needed or not? And you're encouraging people to shut the stuff down. And you can do there's 3 types of projects. There's no-cost ones, that's behavioral change. Low-cost ones is where you're taking like a great example is air compressor and air dryers and integrating them. No reason to run the air compressor not running. So it's just integrating smart equipment together. And then the third is capital projects. Where you're putting on new air compressors, new oil, whatever. You're just putting up those procedure sheets. After you have that database, or when you're counting the database, you're putting up a contest for the employees, real world example. The company puts out, says, how many assets do we have in this company that are consuming electricity, natural gas, and water? Get some involvement from the employee. Put any sustainability thoughts you have that we could do as a company on the backside, and the person who guesses closest with the price. You give away an iPad, some shirts and hats, whatever it is, get some participation. The employees know what's going on. There's a reason why the CEO of Costco still checks out once a month at the retail, at the stores. That's where the action is. You get some really good ideas from it. And you publish those. So you then put up a poster, this is how many actual assets we have. Great example is we had a client that you thought they had about 4,000 assets, at 8,800 assets. It opens the eyes for the executive leadership to realize, oh my gosh, we have capital budgeting on any of this. There's end of life for some of this. So then it starts creating a lot of opportunity to make this bigger. That's why I said it touches so many people in the organization, from the employers all the way to the customers. They got the ideas. Are we out of time or?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.